Did you know that only 6 mammals go through menopause? There are orcas, belugas, some other things like that, and humans, and all of them live in a matriarchal society except us. That is annoying.
Well, I mean, I think it's even more than annoying. It's like that's why under the water is so much calmer, because imagine if we lived in a matriarchal society instead of a patriarchal society, everything would be so much smoother. It would be like living under the water, right? We'd all be floating, not fucking pissed off and angry.
How about we float into today's episode? Welcome to Talk 50 to Me. Talk 50 to me. Let's do it again. So I think some of the things that would help us be a better matriarchal society, and I talk about this a lot, is I think we need to shift our focus and stop caring about what we look like so much. We've talked about this many times, but like I remember even posting pictures of myself in my 50s. I absolutely never wanted to post almost half the pictures I took. I was constantly upset with how I looked, with new wrinkles that were appearing and all of those things. And I'm so happy to say that at 65, I really do not give a fuck. And I think I actually look better now than I did when I was in my 50s because I no longer give a fuck. And I wanted to know, like, where are you in that journey?
Well, I think also what I would like to say is I believe that the not giving a fuck is also paired with you have a confidence about who you are now and what you give out into the world. And that is why it's easier for you to dress. I mean, you do a whole thing about getting dressed, right? And it's very much about like, I'm wearing this because I want to, and this makes me feel good for me, not for you. I'm still not in that place. I am confused. You came and tried to help me in my closet. Like there's, right?
I would hold up things and say, why would you ever have worn this?
Because I think I'm still on the tip of holding on to what I think I still am or want to be versus where I would like to dive into and just fucking exist with no insecurity about it. I'm not on that confident side yet. The giving a fuck and not giving a fuck, I'm still leveling. I'm still teetering because I still really fucking care about what people think about me.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that has to do with what you do for a living as opposed to what I do. And I think I'm very lucky that right at the moment in my life where I stopped giving a fuck what I look like, thousands of people tell me that I'm beautiful daily on my page. And while it doesn't matter, it does. So it's a battle. It's a battle for all of us, you know? But
thank God what I do know about my 50s is that it is giving me the opportunity to find that confidence. And it might come tomorrow, it might come in 5 years, but I know it's coming. And that has been, I think, the most exciting thing for me about being in this decade.
And I know what shirts I'll never let you wear again. Let's get to today's guest. Speaking of fashionable.
Exactly.
Today's guest is a woman who spent decades making comedy legends funnier, and now in her 50s, she's stepping into her own spotlight. She's been the secret weapon behind the scenes for Joan Rivers, Bette Midler, Rosie O'Donnell, and David Letterman, and now she's the funny one out in front. Co-hosting Busy This Week on QVC with Busy Phillips, which just launched its 2nd season and is crushing late night. She's also killing it in the podcast world with Busy is Doing Her Best, bringing that perfect mix of humor and honesty that hits different when it comes from someone who's lived it. Today's guest is the oh-so-charming and fabulously wonderful Caissie St.
Caissie St. Yay!
Thank you so much. That made my day.
For being here. We love having you.
Thank you. It's so nice to see your faces.
I'm glad you can see us. That's a technical plus.
That's right. We're still new to this. This is so new to us. We're just like, we know you know more than we do. So we're just going to try and be professional.
Well, try
No,
is the
you guys are
operative
pros
words.
already. You're killing it already.
Okay, so Caissie, do you think you're like a beginner at intermediate level, or are you full-on expert already about your 50s?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm not an expert at all. Like, I feel like I'm just into my 50s, even though it's a third of the way through my 50s. It's such a weird place to be in because, like, I feel like I just started being in my 50s like a second ago, but on the other hand, like I am already thinking about being in my 60s. Is that weird? Do you
Not
think
at
about
all.
that?
Not at all. It's funny because, you know, when Constance and I, like pretty early on when we met when she was turning 50 and I was turning 60, and she said, "Oh my God, I don't understand why everybody thinks the 50s are so crazy. They're amazing." And I went, "Just wait." And, you know, 3 years to the date, she was like, "What the fuck is happening to me?" So, you know.
So basically,
really
she's
did
always
feel-
right.
Yeah, I mean, well, how many times do we have to learn in our lives that people have experienced that we should listen to, but we never believe it. We never believe it. We always have to experience it ourselves. And then we act like we're discovering something that someone's never been through before. And then you do have a friend who's a few years older than you being like, "I fucking told you."
Yeah, because guess what? They're called elders. They're called wisdom speakers. It's like everything. There's so many different cultures that put women who are older up on pedestals so we can learn from them. So that's what we're doing. Caissie, no pressure, but I think Generation X, that is our journey, is to become that generation that makes it easier for women to age and to learn from women who are doing it like not quietly.
And
So-
as a
Right.
boomer, I would like to say,
Yeah, she's not a part of
welcome to the Elder Dome.
No. Okay, so what?
You're still not a boomer, though.
I'm a boomer.
She is. She's a boomer.
I know. I really
reject
feel like
it.
Gen Z, but I'm going to go with
We've
boomer.
adopted her into Generation X. It's okay. We've adopted her.
Good.
Okay, do you
Okay.
have one word to describe your 50s?
Surreal. I'd have to go with surreal because I still feel like so emotionally in touch with who I was at 8 years old and who I was at 15, 16 years old and who I was at 27 years old and who I was when I turned 40, you know? And so I'm still all of those girls and I'm still all of those women. So it's very...
Is that new? Is that something you're discovering in your 50s, or have you always been that in touch with your other selves?
I think I have gotten more in touch with my other selves as the years have gone on. But I've always been really, really in touch with who I was as a kid. And maybe you could even say like kind of stuck there, kind of frozen there a little bit. But when I got into my 40s, I started really like trying to be radically honest with myself about who I was. And it's a long, long, long process. But I always say I've been like 5 different women, 7 different women since I've like known myself. Now it's going on like 10 different women. And like, thank goodness for the people in my life that love all of those women, you know?
Yeah.
Because I know it happens. Sometimes you become like almost this different person with this different perspective. And then suddenly everything in your life isn't really working the way that it was. And that's got to be so scary. And so I'm a little bit like that, you know, we work in entertainment. So like a lot of the things that we knew in the past aren't working now or not working the same way that they were. So we have to learn a new way of doing things. But I do feel like what is working is like I know myself really well, who I am right now. And I know that I'll be okay.
I also
You know.
think that sometimes we stay the same person throughout our lives, but the acceptance from the outside world changes for who those people are. Like I was always really loud and confident, and, it got beaten out of me. It's sort of like that Jane Fonda quote about how we all get back to being, in our 50s and 60s, we get back to being the little girl we always were meant to be when the world started telling us to be someone else.
Right. Well, it's so funny. We see it with like the Labubu craze, right?
Oh, stop. I love my Labubu.
I saw something on social media about a woman who had to like curb her Labubu budget because she was like, her kids were getting them, but she was also getting them for herself. But I think it is a little bit of like reclaiming that joy. So that is something like that I've always been in pursuit of my entire life, like reclaiming joy that I felt like I missed out on or whatever. But really recently, I feel like I'm really looking at things that I have adored since like Jump Street, like the Muppets are a huge deal for me. Peanuts are a huge deal for me. Scooby-Doo, I love all that kind of shit that you're like, it's inconsequential, but also like, I loved it, and I still love it.
Well, my screensaver on my television is just Peanuts. It's just Peanuts. So it's like anytime I go into the living room, it's just Peanuts cartoons on there. And I don't even know how that was selected or how they came about, but I think that goes back to we might not have appreciated those things when we were children as much as we now appreciate and understand the simplicity of it as adults.
Or allowed them. I wasn't allowed a lot of that stuff.
We're 10 years apart, and our dynamic is similar because she's been through the 50s.
Right.
So like, have you found yourself to kind of be a mentor and a sister and a guider and I don't know, like how is that working in your dynamic at work?
Well, I think that everybody's experience is different, And so one mistake that I think I have made many times in my life is being so quick to give advice or, to like jump on to someone's experience and say like, oh, I went through this, I've been through this, kind of unsolicited or whatever, instead of just listening to them and hearing them out. And so one of the things that I feel like I've grown into is like, sussing out whether or not this person wants advice. Are they asking for advice, or are they just wanting to be heard, which, I have a great deal of respect for. And the other thing is when someone does ask for my advice, like sometimes people ask for your advice about something that's kind of scary and a shit show. Like, my giving birth to my kids was kind of a shit show for me. And so when someone's like, okay, I'm going through this and this and this, and I know that you did as well, I feel like I'm always careful to say like, my story isn't your story. What happened to me isn't necessarily going to happen to you. And so I'm here to support you. It's the same as like in our careers, Constance, like when people are like, how do you break into show business? And I'm like, I can tell you how to break into show business in 1993, but that's not how people are doing it now. I don't know, it's a totally different story. And so even like things like that I went through medically like 5 years ago or biologically 5 years ago, there's a whole different world, a whole different scenario of like what's available. I feel like I can learn from younger women who are just now like beginning to embark on, like I didn't even pay attention to perimenopause. I was just like,
what was that? Was that a thing?
Exactly.
I don't know. I was detoxing from being an alcoholic. I was like, I don't, am I perimenopause or do I just have the shakes?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, same thing. I just was like a power through it kind of person. I wasn't detoxing from anything, but I was just like, well, whatever's happening is what's happening. And I did have some health issues at that time, which is, to be expected, where our models are aging, and so
our avatars are aging.
Our avatars, yes, the meat suits, whatever.
Yes.
Whatever you feel like calling your body, I didn't pay attention. I wasn't that in touch with what was going on with me. Yeah. So I'm so proud of women Busy's age who are like, in their mid 40s and they're like on it and they know about it. But like just being aware of it. I wasn't even aware of it when I was that age.
But
So,
yeah,
like,
because that's Generation X. That's the menopause movement has just begun, and it's only been out in the universe for like the last year.
wait until they get into midlife because, the menopause is just the entrance time. It's really funny. You talk about like being proud of younger people saying things. I remember going to a Sephora and a Gen Z. I was just talking to my friend and saying, I don't know, I'm exhausted. I just don't know why I'm so tired today. And this little girl at the counter said, you probably need to go home and rest your social battery. And I was like, what the fuck? I do. Like just stuff I never thought about. It's like in my 50s, I learned the most important thing, and I try to do it still, is just to meet people where they are.
Right. And, we were raised in that generation where, like, I know it's the biggest joke about Gen X, and I'm sure it's the same for boomers. Like, nobody was watching us, nobody, like, this is so sad, but, like, I remember getting yanked out of school because I didn't have the right vaccinations. And I was taken out of school and they were just like, just go home or whatever. And I was like, how do you go home? Like my I don't know where my dad is. My mom is working. She can't come pick me up. Like she's like, it was unheard of. Like I didn't even know the phone number at my mom's work where she worked. And so I was like, what do I have to do? And they were like, you have to get these vaccines. And I was like, but how do I do it? And they were like, you can either go to your pediatrician. And I was like, I hated my pediatrician, so I didn't want that. I was like, is there any other way? And they were like, there's a vaccine clinic at the town hall. You can go to the, so I like walked my little self down to the town hall to get like vaccine so I could return to school. But like nobody was watching us. Yeah. So of course we haven't been watching ourselves. So it doesn't surprise me that I was just like, what? Like, menopause? What? Perimenopause? What's that? I wasn't paying attention. I was just walking it off, powering through. And like, I couldn't even tell you what all happened.
Oh, I mean, the
time.
difference between menopause when I went through it 10 years ago and now is astounding. I mean, I didn't have hot flashes, so I didn't even know I went through menopause. But both Gen X and boomers were raised in that kids should be seen and not heard, and just fucking grind through it, And I do think there's some happy meat because we've gone too far the other way now. Right. Like kids that can't even, I can't tell you the amount of TikToks I've seen this last week from young girls that are just absolutely freaked out that they have to leave their mom home to go to college.
Yeah, it really is. It's very interesting to me because our generation hadn't taken care of ourselves physically, clearly. We didn't know from mental health at all. Like nobody ever talked about it, And so I think you are right. The pendulum has swung so far in the other direction, especially with like kids are learning about mental health things on TikTok. And I think they're kind of like self-diagnosing themselves.
TikTok is also WebMD.
Yes, exactly. And I also think that, we've swung so far in the direction of self-care, which I think is so important. But like now I think you can go down a little bit of a spiral of self-care where you're not caring about anything else and you're kind of letting yourself off the hook for everything, like for your responsibilities to people in your life, for your social responsibilities, and in the name of self-care. Like I worry about that. And that's probably because it's been monetized so heavily and marketed so heavily. So I think like a little bit of self-care is definitely necessary, but I do worry that like one time I added up the time that it would take during the day to do all of the self-cares that I aspired to. And it was 32 hours. Like,
Yeah, no, Constance and I literally had this conversation the other night because I said, I can't handle my hormone cream. It's too much of a routine. I don't want to do it. And she said her nighttime routine is 45 minutes. And I was like, I don't fucking have time for that.
My husband hates it.
I don't. No, don't
Can I
have
tell
it.
you a business idea that I have? I have a
Yes.
business idea, Heidi, where I'll come to your house and I'll put your nighttime cream
Oh
on.
my God, please.
I'll like get you a little drink. I'll read you a little story
Oh my
if you
God, I
want.
would
I'll
love
put
that.
nighttime cream on you. I'll tuck you into bed and kiss you on the forehead, and then I'll be gone, and then you just Venmo me like whatever that's
I'm
worth, and I'll hit
so
like
I'm so here for that.
It's the new
right.
version of a paid woman. Like
Yeah.
it's you come
Yes,
over to give
yes.
comfort with face
You're my
creams
night nurse. I love
and
it.
tea. Yeah. Oh my God, it's the
Can
adult
I
night
tell you
nurse.
I love it. Adult night nurse. Start it. I'm in. I'm backing it. I don't have any money, but I'm backing it.
Can
Okay.
I
I
have
think
two things really quick.
Okay.
Can
yeah.
you tell us what would be the biggest thing that you learned by working with Joan Rivers, who I feel like was iconic at every age, every decade she was in. So when you worked with her, where was she at in life, and what was your biggest takeaway from working with her?
I loved working for Joan so much. Can I say, like, when I first met her, I was so intimidated and I thought she was going to be such a tough customer, and she really wasn't. She was so tender and so loving. I'm looking at behind my computer is this wall my husband had framed for me, like all these check stubs from working for Joan, because she would always write a sweet note on the check
Oh.
herself. And so just like encouraging like in hearts and smileys and little personal messages. I just learned from her that, you know, to stay vulnerable. I think she could have been the hardest person in the world, and she stayed vulnerable and generous. And so I mean like generous to people that had critiques of her, open to like what they were saying. She continued to evolve on like, you know, sometimes I'd ask her like, you know, this person really took issue with this bit that you did like a few years back. Were you so pissed off or whatever? And she was like, no, I mean, it's their right to say.
Mm-hmm.
And like at the time I was like, you know, fuck this person. But then later I was like, oh, I see the point of that. I see the point of that. And so it goes back to what we were talking about, like your own experience and something that enlightens you to like how another person is feeling. So I think she always was evolving as a person, and she just really stayed like very tender and gentle. Like just for an example of her tenderness, like I would write stand-up comedy for her, and she would ask me to come watch her perform it so I could give her notes, but she would ask not to know when I was going to be in the audience because it would make her nervous. And I'm like, you're the pro-iest pro out there. Like, you've been at this for years. Why would it make you nervous? And she was like, because I have so much respect for what you do, the hard work that you did. You're doing it on my behalf, you know? So that's what I learned from her, is just that, like, I don't think she was humble necessarily. I think she knew she was good at what she did. And I think she knew that she could always like bring it home. But she was also just open to the changes that a person experiences. And like, you know, I interviewed her for this magazine one time, a friend of mine, some rich friend of mine, her dad like bought her a magazine or something, and they did a comedy issue, and I interviewed Joan for it, and she was talking about how she forgave Johnny Carson for like boning her, you know, fucking her over, and like really putting up a big hurdle in her career that you know she got over, but like, you know, that was really. That to me is like such an evolved person who can just be like, let me try to think of it from this person's perspective. And like, and sometimes the perspective that you come up with is like, they're just being an ass. They're just abusing their power, whatever. You don't forgive everyone.
No.
But yeah, she just was so open and like evolved, and always like, sometimes I'd pitch her a joke and she'd be like, I don't know what this is about. Explain to me what it's about. And I love that, you know, instead of just saying no, like it didn't mean that she was necessarily going to do the joke. She just had like curiosity about like what it was about, you know? So I love that about her.
I wish she were alive today to see all the work that she did, to see how many women are now stepping into their power at the age that she was, because we wouldn't be where we are without people like Joan Rivers. And I wanna leave with asking you one more question, and then we have a surprise question. And the last question I want to ask you is, do you have advice for people that are, of another generation about your 50s, about their 50s? What's your advice to the next generation?
My advice is, it's not over, It's just like so many people I know are in their 50s, and like the world is so wild right now, and so many people I know are starting over. Their jobs were wiped out. They've had a change in their health, a change in their life circumstances because, for whatever reason, there are infinite reasons. But they are all starting over. And I'm so proud of people who are doing that. And I'm also really proud that all these people that I know are kind of sharing it. They're kind of sharing their journey. And I know that it kind of feels like you turn 50 and you're like in the downslide to like the end, or like you're trying to look to cross the finish line. But the truth is, like, there really is no finish line in terms of your career, because of again, the way that we're all set up. Like, we're probably all going to have to work until we're well into our 70s.
Yeah,
Listen,
it's up to us to decide where that finish line is.
I'm
Exactly.
65, and I started a new career, at 61. So who the fuck knows what's happening?
Okay,
All right, we
here's
got to
over.
get to your surprise question.
So surprise question. We're going to grab in
If
here.
it's too dirty, Constance wrote it, but if it's really good, I did.
Rude. So not true. Not true. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
What do you have no patience for in your 50s? What do you have no patience for in your 50s?
I have no patience for nothing works anymore. Nothing works. Like, trying to sign into anything, and I need like so many, like, show me where the stairs are in the caption. And I'm like, what are stairs? I forgot what stairs are. And my eyesight's not good enough to see all the pictures. So I'm just like guessing, like, that looks like it could be stairs. There's no way for me to know. And just like circular customer service where they're like, if you'd like to talk to a person. And I'm like, I think we've established that I'd like to talk to a person, but I've talked to 9 robots. And so like whenever I just get an email back from a real person and I'm able to respond to them, or I talk to a real person on the phone, I don't care what country they're in. When it's a real person, I'm very excited. I just have no patience for how nothing works. Like, nothing works.
Yeah.
It's all broken. It's all like digital tumbleweeds that's when I feel my age the most. I feel more than my age when I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know.
Well, it's because we know that it used to work better the other way.
I think Digital Tumbleweeds is a great name for a band. I would just like to leave us with that. And maybe that's the band maybe that's the name of the night nurse company. It's just Digital Tumbleweeds. I'm going to tuck you in, and I'm going to help you remember what your 3-digit code is. Caissie, thank you so much for joining us today.
We
had
love
such
you.
a lovely, it's
I love you
brief
both
but
so
lovely,
much.
and we love you. We didn't even get to talk to you about your fabulous fashion. Please follow her on social media just to see her outfits. But we'll see you soon.
That's right.
See you soon, you guys. Love you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
So I want to put this out there, and I may be wrong, but putting it out there that
You're
I
never
might be
wrong.
wrong. I mean,
Never.
it's an opinion, but Hacks is what we have. I know what I've read. I've read a lot that Hacks is based on Joan Rivers. And also, I've heard people say that it's got a little bit of Unreal in it, which is this mentor-mentee and 2 women trying to work together to forge not a group, but a team. but what's it called? That like the hard love, the
Tough love?
Yeah, the tough love, right?
Yeah.
And hearing Caissie say that like she was so soft.
No tough love.
Right,
yeah.
and so
Caissie
vulnerable.
was that young ingenue giving all the jokes that even literally, she said it here, which is a scene from Hacks that Joan, what's her name? I'm so sorry. From Hacks will say to her young joke writer, I don't even know what that means.
Right.
And that literally happened in real life. She literally was the voice for some of the funniest people out there. And I just think she's just so, what a life. What a really cool thing to do.
I know. And I think like, oh my gosh, she's only 53.
Yeah.
Like that's what I love about that is like everything that she's already experienced. And now she's coming into this stage in her life with all of that, all of those women that like propped her up at a young age, I think and now she is doing that for the next generation,
yes,
right?
Despite what we're taught, it actually, there were women that were mentors too. I didn't have any of that. People always ask me like, who's your mentor? And I'm like, I didn't have any female mentors.
That's right.
It's the boomer generation, man. I'm telling you. It's parents of boomers. They really were, just shut up and go eat your dinner and go to bed.
Right.
To their kids. I would have loved to have had. I mean, my mentor didn't know she was my mentor, but my mentor was Lucille Ball because I was parked in front of the TV every night and watched her.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Same here too, because I think, I had an older sister that I believe I just wanted to be everything she was because she was older and her friends were older and they were more mature. So I've always wanted to be older. I've always felt I was a older soul, and the young part of life to me felt very trivial and that nobody took me seriously and people didn't start taking me seriously until I went over a threshold of like 30.
Yeah.
And even then I was still a child. I still hadn't learned. But
and a woman.
And
so
a woman.
You got to add that to the fact that nobody takes any of us seriously.
That's true. That's true.
Fuckers. Anyway,
Yeah.
that is all the time that we have for today.
Oh,
We just want to leave you by telling you all the places that you can find us. If you want more Talk 50 to Me, you can follow us on Instagram at Talk 50 to Me. You can subscribe. The word is so hard. To our email list to get TFTM updates and announcements. If you have a question, you can DM us on Instagram. You can email us at talk50tomepodcast@gmail.com. Send us questions. Send us your thoughts. Send us jewelry in the real mail.
yeah. If you haven't noticed,
And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Wherever you get your favorite podcast.
Yes. And if I haven't noticed, jewelry, you're going to talk about jewelry.
No, I was just going to say, if you haven't noticed, we do love jewelry.
We are the Stack Queens.
See you next Tuesday. Bye now. Talk 50 to Me with Heidi Clements and Constance Zimmer is produced by Alex Beatty, recording engineer Aaliyah Walker, editing by Zaleen Hassi, music by Matt Friedman, production services provided by A4S Podcast Studios, a Talk 50 to Me LLC production distributed by the Forward Network.